without further ado, what we are here for, we've been in planning this been a while, and I really appreciate Mr. Todd Western III and his beautiful mother Barbara for coming out today. With over 160 years of operation, Black owned and operated, I'd like to introduce you all to Todd Western III and learn more about Western Farms and his entire operation.
Everyone, thank you for coming. My name is Todd Western III, and yes, there is a fourth and a fifth. My son is the fourth, and my 2-year-old grandson is the fifth. So there's a lot of Todds. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the Berg organization, and thank you so much to John Deere. This is so surreal to be here. Special shout out to you for finding me. There's only 7 of us, but we're still hidden, so I do appreciate you finding us. It does not go lost on me that we just celebrated Father's Day, which makes it extra special to talk about my father and his impact to John Deere, to be able to do a tribute to my father on the heels of Father's Day. It also does not go lost on me that we just celebrated Juneteenth, in which the last bit of slaves were free. The significance of that is that we're all here on the backs of our ancestors, and we acknowledge them, we thank them for the sacrifice that they made. So I just want to take that acknowledgement. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is the Western family farm history. It is a long, rich history. I'm also going to talk to you about my father, Todd Western II, his impact on John Deere and the impact John Deere had on our family. I'm also going to talk to you about how those first two helped motivate me to create the Iowa Farmers of Color Conference to support farmers of color in Iowa. Sorry about that. So this is the part where I ad-lib. But no, anyway, it's been really great to, as I came in, this is my first time. My dad worked at Waterloo, downtown Waterloo in the heat treat department. And to come out here and see some of my old classmates, seeing some of my old classmates that work here, and to see some of the guys that played golf, the John Deere Golf League with my dad, and basketball with my dad, it's been really surreal. So the Western Family Farm. Before I do that, I always acknowledge the 2 pioneers of my life. This is my dad, Todd Western II, and this is my mom, Dr. Barbara Western. 2 pioneers that there's never a mountain too high, never a valley too low, and there's never enough to do in a day. They pile it all on in one day. And so that's where I get my energy from. That's where I get my go-to from. So how did it all begin? It began in Aberdeen, Virginia, at the tip over here in Virginia, right on the border of Tennessee. In about 1790, Henry Lucas bought his way out of slavery for $700. After he got out of slavery, he went and worked in the local area. He actually worked for the slave master's son. And so he worked for him, and he gave enough money to go back and buy his wife and children out of slavery for $1,900. Let that sink in for a minute. He went back and bought his wife and children out for $1,900. After he bought them out of slavery, like most Americans at that time, what do you do next? You go out west to put a stake in the ground and create a family, start a legacy. So that's what they did. They got in a covered wagon. They traveled west. They stopped in Ohio. Part of the Western clan got out of the wagon, and they went to Canada because they didn't really trust the United States at that point. Things might spark up again. So they went to Canada, where it was safer. The rest of the Western clan settled in Iowa, in Mahaska County and New Sharon, Iowa. By 1864, they had bought their first tract of land, 80 acres. By 1886, after working and getting more money, they completed that and bought the second 80 acres to have a 160-acre farm plus 12 acres of timber. In 1886, things were not the best then, right? Emancipation Proclamation just got signed in 1863. The Civil War had just ended. But despite of that, the Western family laid claim and started their family. So things were going well. And the interesting to note is that the other Westerns, the cousins and brothers, they also owned land in that Mahaska County. And so all told, between all the Westerns, it was about a little over 1,000 acres. So I double checked, it was like 1,000 to 1,500 acres between all the Westerns in that area. So think about that. A Black family in the middle of Iowa owns 1,500 acres between them all. That's pretty significant. The family did well. This is my grandfather, Todd I. This is my grandmother, Grace. And this is the 4th generation to farm that farm. This is a lot of credit goes to these guys. A lot of credit goes to Joyce Cook, Charlene Montgomery, and Joyce Cook, Betty Smith, and this is my father here, Todd II, the baby of the family. And so they flourished here. They made a family here, and they did so well that they were featured on the front page of Des Moines Register. It says the Todd Western family thrives on farm life. And another title probably wouldn't work today, but Negro does well with Iowa land, right? Try to get that past today's PC world. But they did well. And this is the oldest sister helping granddad milk cows, and grandmother always canning something. So things are going well, and they grew corn, soybeans, wheat, sorghum, and cows, pigs, chickens. My grandmother had a great garden. And this is my grandfather here getting on the tractor and go up the hill. Don't fault us. We didn't start green, but we ended green. So I learned on red. So we learned on red. We had an old international M and an international H. So the kids flourished. They went to high school. They're great athletes. This is my grandparents here. This is at the Iowa State Fair, where they're being honored for having a farm for 50 years in the family. So the state fair always honors family farms that have longevity. So the first level is 50 years. So this is my grandparents here at the state fair. So what happens from there is the sisters move up to Waterloo. They get into school teaching and business. My dad goes to the first year of college at William Penn and to UNI, and then he gets drafted in the Army. Now this is during the Vietnam War. Fortunately, he didn't have to go to Vietnam, but he was drafted. He started in Georgia, Fort Benning, Georgia, went to the Army and spent a lot of his time out east in DC and Virginia. And so life is going well. Him and my mom meet. They have this beautiful child here, and then they move to Waterloo. So they moved to Waterloo and they settled in Waterloo. And that's when the journey begins. So my dad had a great journey here at John Deere. He worked here for 41 years. And so by 1971, he started as a production worker on third shift and worked his way up and became the first Black supervisor at John Deere. And this letter here acknowledges the fact that he was promoted to first shift supervisor at John Deere. And so he became the first Black supervisor at John Deere. And back then, interesting to note that in those days, you had an engineer and you had a supervisor. He did both. He didn't have another person, so he was that good. And so this was his happy place. This was his happy place. He loved leading his team. He loved being on machines. And even more important, he loved to figure out how the machines to work better. And as a consequence for them working better, it saved John Deere a lot of money. So he was always submitting ideas to improve processes. And this is a newsletter John Deere used to have, and it used to now highlight some of the workers' accomplishments. And in this article, they're thanking Todd because he submitted 6 ideas to reduce scrap that saved the company over $500,000. In today's world, that's $1.8 million. So my father was constantly working on improving things, and as a consequence, he was constantly being rewarded for his efforts. And one of his cherished ones here was the Junior Manager Award in 1997. And here his team won several awards as well: financial performance, outstanding safety performance, and the list goes on. So he had a major impact on John Deere, and John Deere had a major impact on us. John Deere was in our family because all his sisters married guys from John Deere, right? So we constantly be at, functions where the guys would be at the corner talking about John Deere, the latest this, the latest that. As a matter of fact, if I go back here, I forgot to mention something before. So I don't think I told somebody about this part number, but he loved John Deere so much, he'd be constantly sleeping on the couch and he would recite part numbers in his sleep. And I'm pretty sure this was the part number. So the other award he got was the Quality Award, Department 123, downtown Waterloo, for the Gear and Special Products Division. He also got the award in 2003 for the Shareholder Value Award. Point being is that he loved John Deere. He loved being at John Deere. His other happy place was farming. Here's where it gets real interesting. So my grandfather, what would happen is he would work all day at John Deere, take care of his family, and he bought 40 acres in Waterloo. So after taking care of his family, working at John Deere, he'd go work on his 40-acre farm where we grew corn and soybeans. So the other thing is that my mom was getting in her process of getting her doctorate. So she just finished her master's degree. She's on her way to her doctorate. And so we would farm the farm of 40 acres, and we'd go down and help my grandfather farm his farm down in Sharon. And it was awesome, right? And so then in 1974, my grandfather passes away. And because there's no mountain high enough or no valley low enough for my parents. It's always a go-to attitude. So what he does then is he says, you know what, we're going to farm both. So we would load up a semi and drive that semi with all the tractors and equipment, drive it 2 hours down to New Sharon, farm that farm for 4 or 5 days. He set up we had a trailer down there, the whole works, and we would farm that farm. I'd get out of school for a week and we would farm that farm. We'd load it back up, come back to Waterloo. He'd take a day of rest, going to John Deere, making sure that everything is cool. Then that weekend, we'd farm the 40 acres in Waterloo. And so that went on for about 6 to 8 years. But even the tough man like my dad, that didn't have a lot of longevity to it, and it wore us out, right? And so what he did was he rented the 160 acres out, and we farmed 40 acres. So because my parents don't let grass grow under the feet, and we always got to keep it moving, my dad decides, you know what? I need to run marathons. So now he's running Chicago marathons every October. So now he's works all day, comes take care of the family. Now, by this time, my mom is full swing in her doctorate. She's singing opera. She wins scholarships in New York to sing in New York at the Opera House. She sings the Opera House in the Midwest. So I could be in school clothes, church clothes, farm clothes. You never know where we're going to be, right? And so, or in Chicago watching him. And so, and it definitely was not going to be a father-son thing with me in that marathon. Wish that thing, but that was not going to happen. So he worked that way for a while. And one of his biggest goals was to beat the 4-hour mark in the marathon. So this right here shows that he ran the marathon under 4 hours. Mine's like 4 seconds, but he did it, right? And so for a man as busy he was to train, to get it under 4 hours, he was very happy about that. And so everything's going well. And my mom is singing opera. We're here, we're there. And on a typical day, he comes home from work, takes care of the family. And then he goes out about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and he goes to the track to train. And so everybody goes to bed. My mom wakes up about 2, 3 in the morning and realizes he's not there. And so you get that dreaded knock at the door. That's when we find out he passed away in a bicycle accident on his way to the track. Unfortunately, and ironically, and even worse, is that it was like 3 blocks from the house, and we didn't know. So that sent a ripple through our family, sent a bomb off through our family. But we banded together because, the leader of our family, the patriarch family was gone. What do we do now? But in true Western fashion, you don't buckle. Like my mom always says, you still got to produce. So what do? The baton is passed. The baton is passed. This is my brother, Chris, Adam, my son, Todd IV, and my mom. So we band together. And I remember about a week after the funeral, which, by the way, when he died, it was a week before his 65th birthday, and he was 9 months from retirement. He probably wasn't going to retire, but he was 9 months from retirement. So we banded together, and I remember about a week after the funeral, my brother and I looked at each other. It was like, we realized that, this is July. We planted a crop in April. We got to get that crop out of the field. So like, holy shit, right? So what do? And so we banded together, and we did everything Dad did, right? We found the keys here and we banded together and we got the crop out. And so from 2008 to 2015, this was the core group that got it done. We added my son to it. And so now we did everything that Dad did. But by 2015, we realized that we need to be more effective. We need to increase our yields. We need to be more efficient on our farming. And so keep in mind, my mom is a 5'4" woman, black woman from Chicago, who knows nothing about agriculture, only what my dad taught, right? So she jumps in both feet and learns the business of agriculture. While me and my brothers, are doing the work, she's learning the business of agriculture. So she meets with all the state agencies and she takes notes and she's understanding the business of agriculture. More importantly, she's making sure that the state agencies know that we're there. She's understanding the cost share programs. She's understanding the access programs so that we can be afforded some of those programs as well. And so while that's going on, me and my son come down from Minneapolis and my brother. So my brother was a city planner in Waterloo. I'm up in Minneapolis in the corporate world. My other brother's up in Minneapolis. And so we would just band together, work our schedules together. We would come down and we would just start farming the farm. And so being in the corporate world, I fly around a lot, all the time. So I'm always in a suit in an airplane. So this picture here is special to me because it gives me an opportunity to take that suit off, smell some diesel fuel, get my hand in the dirt, and be one with nature. And so this This was after a long, extensive business trip one day. And so this one's pretty special to me. So happy to say that today we're running lean, we're running efficient, the state agencies know who we are. And what it's done is it's inspired us to continue to tell our story, which is why we're glad that you allowed us to be here. So my mom also makes sure that they know who we are, because most state agencies say same thing everybody else says. We don't know any black farmers. Well, my mom made sure that they knew that we were a black farmer in Iowa. So in order to do that, she made sure that the state knew that we were a century farm, which means that you've had your farm in the family for 100 years. Then, 30, 40 years later, then she made sure that they understood that we were a heritage farm. Now, mind you, this happened within 3 years with each other because they didn't acknowledge us to begin with. So mom made sure when she walked in the door, said, hey, we're here. We need these plaques. So we are now registered as a century farm and a heritage farm. Heritage farms means you've had your farm for over 150 years. I have to report today that this year marks 160 years that we've had the farm. And so we're there now, which then inspires me to say, we got to get the next generation ready. So this is the next generation. My granddaughter, my daughter, my nephew, and my grandson, Todd V. So we want to make sure that even though they don't farm, that they understand the business of the farm, that they understand the history and the legacy and the work that went into keeping this farm alive for 160 years. And so we are very proud to make sure that they are part of a lot of our farming. Now, with all that I just said and what we went through, that inspired me to say, it's not about us. I'm happy that, Joyce, Charlene, Betty, and my dad, that fourth generation uplifted the farm. My job is to carry that baton. And we're doing that now, but also to help other farmers, to help other black farmers who don't know. And so the 2017 census said there was 7 black farmers that owned or operated 100 or more acres. Today, the last census 2023 said there's 18. So last year in 2023, I said, I'm going to bring together in a small room these 7 black farmers. That's what I thought. But after working it, I'm happy to say that last year, December 16th, I assembled a conference of 116 black farmers in one room. That was beyond my belief, right? And we had black, white, Asian, African, we had interpreters, we had the whole works. Blew me away in one room. I thought it was a one and done, but apparently I'm doing it again. So now we're doing it again next year, or this year, November 16th. So we created the Iowa Farmers of Color. So the Iowa Farmers of Color is designed to bring all farmers together, but specifically say, let black farmers know it's a safe space to come in so we can learn from each other, meet each other. If you think about it, in 2017, there was 7. Well, of those 7, guess who owned 5? The Western clan. So we owned one, the uncle owned this one. So then they don't farm it today, but they rent it out. But either way, the title's in a Western name. So that means only 2. And I met those 2. And they lived an hour and a half away from us. And we had no idea they existed. So now there's 18. So guess what? Now I got to find 11 more black farmers that I didn't know about last year, right? So the Iowa Farmers of Colors, that is our number one goal, is to bring together farmers and to network, to learn from each other, to trade information, and more importantly, to let the state agencies know, the USDA, NRCS, that we're here and that we are a contributor to the agricultural economy of Iowa. And so that is our goal. The conference was such a success, I get a mysterious call from somebody out of Washington, D.C. It is the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Vilsack. And so he says, I heard about your conference. I would love to meet with you and understand what you guys are doing. Vilsack's here in the middle with my son, myself, and the rest of the core group of the Iowa Farmers of Color. So he flies in DC, the whole Secret Service, the whole thing. I didn't know he rolled like that. He rolls in and sharp as a tack. And he was really genuinely concerned about our concerns, our challenges, what we needed. And he applauded us for what we did. And so that was a nice pat on the back to let us know we're on the right track. And so we're hoping that he's going to be more involved this year. But yeah, so it was such a success that the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture came and wanted to know what we were doing. So we then now, the Iowa Farmers of Color, we meet quarterly on a Zoom call. We meet once in person in the summer, and then we have our annual conference in the winter. The intent is that we just don't meet one time. The intent is that we keep the communication going. We keep the momentum going. So that way we're a constant source of information for each other. Because most state agencies, when they have the conference, once a year, and most of those guys know each other. We don't really know each other. So we're trying to create that network, that community of farmers, of Black farmers, so that we can stay in contact and learn from each other. So you're all invited, August 4th. Now, at this particular farm here, her and her husband, they own a lavender farm. And so she produces lavender. So she's going to give a tour of the lavender farm. We're going to barbecue, have a good time, get to meet people. There'll be a lot of state agencies there as well. And so would love for you guys to come attend that. I just, again, want to thank you so much to John Deere. Thank you to Berg for having us here and telling our story. And one thing I want to tell you is that with my father working here 41 years, you know, he started as a production worker and worked his way up. And you saw what he did. Because it's just off of Juneteenth, I just tell everybody, you know, you never have to stay in one place. Keep pushing, keep striving. You be the best at what you do. If you're a grinder, if you're a bender, be the best you can. Be a value, be an asset. And so never let anything hold you back. My father didn't let things hold him back. My message to you is keep grinding, keep pushing, and thank you so much for letting me be here. You can also follow us, westernfamilyfarms.com, to get more information. My son's farming organization grows microgreens in Minneapolis. He supplies them to all the restaurants in Minneapolis. He's on Instagram, Freedom Farms, Freedom Farms on Instagram. Western Family Farms is also on has a website and Instagram. So thank you again for letting me be here.
Appreciate you so much for coming. We just wanted to give you at least something near and dear to us at Harvester. I want to make sure you left with a gift.
First, though, you got to bring my mom so I can embarrass her.
Awesome.
Come on, Mom. Come on up here. So again, like I said, she may be 5'4", but she walks 8 foot tall from Chicago. So when she walked in those state agencies, they knew that they needed to make sure they came right. So my mom is responsible for getting us right and getting us efficient. So we want to say thank you so much for Mom doing the thing.
Appreciation from Harvester Works and the team, and then we have some other goodies in the bag that Adam has as well. So.
A new planter or a combine? Which
Got you a little combine in there. Oh, we sincerely appreciate you guys, and we hope this starts on the journey which going forward we can support a lot of your into the future.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for coming out and everyone on the phone as well.